Patrick, we put out good content. Why aren't we viral? Hey, welcome back to another Blunt Force Business. I am Brian LaFauci.
I'm Patrick Marino.
And today we are going to address the issue of why we're not all viral on social media.
We're working our asses off and we're putting out great content. We have gone viral, but not really.
But yeah.
Not really.
Well, that's everyone's. I mean, how many times do you, especially in your lane with the work you do, how many times are you working with clients on a social media campaign and they are looking for that? They're looking to blow up.
I think most of my clients are pretty reasonable in terms of their expectations of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. You know, I've only worked with a couple of people ever who've really gone like really viral.
Right.
You know, I've not that I haven't run effective social media campaigns. I have. But virality, I've only seen that happen a couple of times with people I've worked with.
Well, that's
true virality.
True virality is what we're going to talk about today. And expose the truth to you behind this thing that you might be searching for.
And whether or not you should be searching for it in the first place.
Like Zelda. Is that a horrible example, wasn't it? Like Zelda.
I feel like these are getting worse.
Yeah, the examples are getting
the little
worse.
aside examples are getting way worse.
Like Gandalf.
You know Robin Williams' daughter was named Zelda?
No.
Robin Williams?
Yeah.
He was the comedian, right?
Yes.
God, famous.
Yes.
Yeah, his daughter was named Zelda after the video game.
That was a great video game.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did. That video game went viral.
It's super viral.
And it had, you know. And so we're not viral yet.
No, because we talk too much.
Because we talk about Zelda.
Yeah.
All right, Blunt Force Facts. Let's jump into them for today for our listeners to get something out of this video that they can actually use.
Yep.
So Blunt Force Facts for you today. Number one is a Blunt Force fact that we've used before.
It's one of our tried and true.
Yeah, and it applies to a bunch of things, so it will apply again today. Blunt Force fact number one for going viral is don't talk to strangers.
This is almost like an antiviral blunt force fact.
True.
Because we're not chasing virality. We don't want people who are we're talking not for you. Like if you're out there trying to become an influencer, this podcast isn't for you.
No, that's
right.
different.
But if you're here trying to do business, like our audience, small business, local business owners, small entrepreneurs trying to put out a business, an idea out into the world, you want to focus on your audience and not the people that don't care to do business with you. Those people are going to be what helps you become viral. Those people that aren't going to be your customers. We want to not focus on them.
And I think I get it. I think I get it. Right. And you can correct me if I don't get it. But when people say they're looking to get this kind of viral backing behind whatever they're putting out there, the general assumption is that it's going to get more people to follow them. They'll get more sales. They'll do all these things. But is it? And will it? Because what is the reality of having a viral post or on social media? Well, the reality is that it goes against everything we talk about with the avatar exercise, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. I mean, like, especially if you're a small business or you're a local business, going viral is going to mean that you've reached a ton of people who aren't going to be interested in doing business with you, which is not a terrible thing, but it might not help you in the future. Like I have an example. I know a girl that I've worked with. She's a model and she works with a very female focused clothing line. Mm-hmm. And she's really, really working on her TikTok, right? Really working on it. And she's diving into her TikTok. And what's happening is when she puts out a certain type of content, she's an attractive woman, puts out a certain type of content, it goes kind of viral-ish.
Yep.
But it is all dudes. All dudes, right? So it's like, yeah, the post did well, right? But we are not selling our female-focused apparel line to these dudes. So what was the point of going viral? Right? We talked to the wrong audience. We were talking to strangers. We got to figure out how do we talk to this core audience, right? We want to talk to the people that are going to be buying our product and services who are going to be paying us money, not the people who aren't. And the challenge is as well is if she has that viral moment, the next thing she puts out is going to be seen more likely by those people who engaged with the last thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So now it's like, now we've created this little spiral
of the wrong people.
where what the social media algorithm is doing is it's showing it to people who've engaged with our stuff in the past, and all of our stuff that they engaged with is not anything we want to be putting out there for our core audience.
And I think where this becomes an issue for business owners, and I think we all get sucked into it. I get sucked into it sometimes, you know. I think you probably get sucked into it with your clients sometimes. I mean, with maybe over analyzing certain data, is where that little button on your phone or that little notification, every time it pops up, it distracts you.
Right.
And what do we do? You know, instead of being focused throughout the day on what we're really trying to hit at, we get focused on looking at that number all the time, right? Is it, what was our engagement? What was our engagement? And that can be addicting. It's addicting for kids. It's addicting for adults. It's addicting for business owners who think that this is the way I need to grow, right? In which there is validity to, yes, you can grow exposure through this. Mm-hmm. However, be aware that if this pulls a ton of time from you, a lot of this could be, it's more than just that number, I guess is the best way to say it. You know that it's more than just the number of people that are out there. Great. You had a video and I got sucked into this once too, because early on in my social media campaigning with my company, I put a post out there that led to Business Startup Basics with Bobo, right? Which is my dog, Bobolina. And every Thursday we would do business startup advice from the dog. Great. It was good. Got good engagement. But the first one that really took off had nothing to do with business.
Right.
It was my dog on a blanket with a picture of my dog that's on the blanket. And I said ran it. And boom, everyone liked it. And I was like, we found it, right? We got it.
Get the dog in there.
Get the dog
Hire
in there.
the dog. Pay that dog.
Right. Which eventually, I don't know if that was the right thing, because eventually that series kind of teetered off and we pivoted away from it.
Right.
But what was the reality? That audience was probably just a dog audience.
Talking to people who love dogs.
It had nothing to do with...
I mean, there's something to be said about like you posting something almost like behind the scenes, a day in the life of Brian LaFauci that can help with your people, but only once you've established that the correct people are engaging with your content.
Absolutely. And I think that's not what happened there. And what happened there was I misinterpreted and followed the shiny button of like, oh, look, people like this.
Right.
And in retrospect and really analyzing that, I know now what I know now, which is they got me. Right. And they forced my time and effort probably down a hole that I shouldn't have maybe gone as far down as I did. And maybe there was nothing bad that came out of it. But was it the most effective use of my messaging? I don't know. Right. And I was influenced by probably at the time talking to strangers.
Yeah. And we're going to mention more of that when we get to blunt force fact number 3. The only thing I want to add to this before we move on as well is like when you get down to the point where I'm sure you've heard of this, influencers, right? If you're a small business and you want to get your message out there, you might engage, or especially if you're selling a product, you might give it to somebody who has a good audience.
Yep.
Right? What you're not looking for necessarily is Taylor Swift, right? You don't need the person who's got the biggest following. What you need is the person who's not a stranger. You need the person whose following matches your ideal customer, the people that you want to buy your product or service. So when you're deciding to choose an influencer or find somebody to represent your brand, you want to make sure that they're not a stranger as well, right? You want to make sure that you're bringing in people who are your core customers, not people, there might be some overlaps. It might be we're selling a certain type of product, they're selling a certain other type of product or whatever it is. There might be an overlap in the audience.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we're not talking to somebody who just has a big audience.
Yes.
We're talking to somebody who has a specific audience.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's a great example of how the avatar exercise, which we've done podcasts on, we have a video on, we spend a lot of time on, can be a great analytical tool for looking at who should that other person be?
Right.
You know, who should those other influencers be that we're going to target? And we maybe grab something from that avatar that really stands out to us that is an augmented, maybe augmented service or characteristic that maybe isn't our first characteristic that people come to us for, but it's there. And then we can kind of align it that way. So that exercise kind of ties into that very well. So blunt force fact number 1, we've said it before. We will say it again. Keep in mind when it comes to, hey, why aren't we viral? Or we really want to go viral. Don't talk to strangers.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Lesson in everything we do.
Absolutely. Want to go into blunt force fact number 2 now?
I would like to go on the
All right, fantastic. Blunt force fact number 2 has to do with how we post our social media. It's easy roads lead to dead ends. And so what do we mean there with that vague term, easy roads lead to dead ends? We can mean a bunch of things, but one of the things we want to talk to today in relation to that concept is a lot of our clients and a lot of our listeners are using social media tools to post to multiple platforms. And Patrick, what is your take on what potentially could be going on there?
Well, I don't have a personal opinion on the matter, but what I do have is I have data. Right? And so the challenge is, and you'll notice this, right? And the easy does it version of this is you have a platform, right? Hootsuite probably being the market leader. I know Brian uses Buffer. I use Social Pilot for certain things. There's a couple of these platforms, or a lot of the major CRMs, MailChimp and HubSpot, they all have like a social media scheduling platform. Mm-hmm. And what we might say as consultants, we might say, okay, you don't have enough time for social media? Schedule it ahead of time, right?
Yep.
Find a little bit of time, one day a week, where you can put some content out and then schedule it, right? So schedule it, put it out there so that on Friday at 3 p.m., that post is going out. We know it's going out.
And now it's hitting all your networks.
Right.
Too.
Okay. Well, that's the problem. Okay. But the problem is, there's a couple of problems with that. Number one is each network is very different in the type of content that it's going to like. Mm-hmm. That it's going to want to push out there. Mm-hmm. Your audiences on each type of network are going to be very, very different. Even if they're a similar ideal customer.
Yep.
People who watch YouTube are not the same people who spend all their time on TikTok, not the same people who spend all their time on LinkedIn, right? All very, very different. The types of content are going to be different, right? Video works differently in terms of how it gets pushed out there on all the different platforms. And then probably the most important thing is that the platforms don't really necessarily want you using these other platforms, right? So YouTube doesn't want you using a third-party system to put your video into YouTube. It wants you using a Google tool, right? So what happens? Well, the confluence of all those things is resulting for a lot of people in not much reach for their posts. And we have actually a direct example of this. So Brian's got a consultant agency. He puts out a lot of content. He's putting out almost daily content, which is pretty remarkable. He's got a great team behind him putting out that content.
Fantastic team.
As well. But
Shannon, how do you do it? Share with our audiences your tip and trick.
One of the things I noticed was his YouTube shorts, right? So like they were getting zero engagement. Zero views. Right, which is unusual, right? Which is unusual, right? You put a YouTube short out there. It's got like a little description and a couple of keywords. That thing's gonna be seen by somebody,
right?
But these are being seen by nobody, right? And I think a lot of people who are doing scheduling for Instagram and Facebook say the same thing. Maybe not zero, but they're seeing that when they schedule it using a third-party platform like a Hootsuite, like a Buffer, whatever it is, the post isn't going as far. Reach-wise, isn't getting shown to as many people as it would have if you had just posted it to Instagram through your phone app. Now,
so I looked for research on that, and the research that came up told me that these tools don't hinder or gatekeep your reach. Now, granted, the reseach was done by the tool.
Hootsuite article by Hootsuite.
It was and some of them were like these pseudo sites that really are put together as benefit just to promote the other stuff.
Right. I mean, like the easy button just doesn't. It's just not. If you were if you had a huge audience, like let's say you're a Snoop Dogg.
Yep.
Right? Millions and tons. I don't know how many followers he
So
has.
this is a great,
but he has tons of them, right?
point.
So it almost
Yes.
doesn't matter. He puts something out there, it doesn't matter.
And he posts
Right.
5 times a day at this point.
You are not Snoop Dogg, unless you're a celebrity watching this. If you're a celebrity watching this, then welcome. Thank you. Thank you for joining our network. If you could share this with your network, that would be fantastic.
Snoop Dogg, if you are watching, I was a big fan growing up and engaged in a lot of rap battles using your
Snoop
style.
Dogg, I like your music.
I like your style.
Signed, Patrick. Remember when you did that song with Dr. Dre? That was awesome.
That was great.
That was awesome. catch the reference if you got it.
That was fantastic.
But yeah, so like, I mean, like you just have to be careful. Like watch your reach.
Tommy, what's his name?
Chris Farley.
That's your second Chris Farley reference in a while. That was well done. Subtle, but very distinct.
Remember the dog pound? That was awesome.
That was the best. That was the best. Oh, good stuff. Yeah, so you're right. At the end of the day, if that's who you are and you are targeting like those specific things, and if you have the audience already, then maybe you're right. Maybe the tool is the right thing. Maybe the using those bigger tools is going to work. Okay. But you might find that if you don't already have the audience, you might end up with a situation like we ended up where we noticed some of our stuff just wasn't moving at all, almost to a concernable amount where you can put almost anything out there, it's going to get something.
Right.
If you're doing it right, and we know we're doing it right, we know we're following the
best practices.
Yeah, the best practices of all the other stuff. So
I think the lesson is there's no such thing as an easy button.
Right.
There's no such thing. You think, oh, I'm just going to push this button and it goes out everywhere exactly the same.
Right.
It's just not going to work.
Right.
You have to figure out a new way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But this is a good reason. Okay, why are you not going viral? It can be that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look
I'm
at
banging
it.
the table. I shouldn't be. Sorry.
Yep. If you're using the tools, you might want to reconsider it. I know it's a little extra time, but if you're putting the time in anyways, maybe you need to change your system to get the impact that you're looking for.
What we might do is we might focus on 1 or 2 networks instead of 6.
Great point. Great point. See where you're getting engagement. All right. Blunt force. So blunt force fact number 2, easy roads lead to dead ends. Can lead to dead ends.
Yeah. I'm not making an opinionated.
Yeah, right.
I'm just using some data that I have and have researched.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Blunt force fact number 3 for today is from our favorite Disney movie and yours, Let It Go.
Let it go, let it go. I don't know the words to that song.
That's all. That's it.
Yeah.
3 words over and over and over again.
Remember Frozen? remember when you were freezing everything and you were on the mountain? Like,
that was awesome.
Alone?
That was awesome.
So cool.
That was the best.
Awesome.
This is great. Let it go. What do we mean?
I mean, we mean exactly what you're talking about, right? You put something out there and you're just like, why are people clicking on this? Why aren't people liking it? Or you see they're like, oh, now I have to watch it. And you watch. You can see it, especially like with TikTok when something like starts moving.
Yeah.
You and I, we were texting. We had something go on TikTok. We're texting back and forth. Oh, it's up to 500. Oh, it's over 1,000. Like, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes.
Yeah. That was kind of gross what we did that day, if you think about it. Like,
yeah,
we were like little kids.
We couldn't let it go.
Sitting there.
And then you become obsessed with it, right? And then, like, if you're a small business owner, do you have time to get obsessed with that stuff?
Right. I mean, you shouldn't. I mean, prime example of this, and, we use big names sometimes, and I get that it doesn't always relate, but, I mean, because he's making so much money off of these that he doesn't have to look back. We want to look back. So let's caveat this.
Right.
Do you want to look back at what you put out there? Yes, but I would do that the same way you would evaluate your finances, which is maybe on a monthly basis, we do a financial evaluation, right? You do the same thing with your TikToks and your Instagrams and your Facebooks. Have a set time, maybe on your calendar once a month to review, but Joe Rogan doesn't go back and listen to his podcasts. He doesn't he doesn't track the follow. You put it out there. You did the best you could. You did your research, so you think you're putting the right stuff out there. Maybe reply to comments if that's what you want to do. I get that. But doing what sometimes even we get sucked into and watching the ticker climb is such a waste of your time, and you'll make incorrect assumptions off it.
You can lose your mind if you figure out, like you talked about the puppy thing, but I'm even thinking about a couple of things that we put out. Like something goes. And you're like, why did it go? Why did it take off? Why did it go viral? Was it because we posted the Friday before the holiday weekend?
Right.
People were getting out of work. Was it the content? Was it because it was based on startup content? Like, what was this? What was it about this? And then we tried to replicate it. Fail.
Right, because we were looking at one instance
Exactly. You're working
and trying
at this
to take
micro,
all the variables and put them in there.
micro level that just doesn't work. Like it's because, and the algorithms could be changing in the meantime. Like your audience changes slightly every time you have a new follower. Like all these things are affecting it. And as a small business owner, like on a micro level, I don't think it's valuable to look on a micro level. You're more likely looking like, is our audience increasing?
Yes.
Do the people who are our audience mention that they saw us on our social media, and then are they doing business with us?
Right.
On a longer, more of a macro, like a mini macro, like sort of like you said, like a month. I mean, that's reasonable.
Very reasonable, because then you can take like if you're posting almost every day or close to it or something like that, then you can take real data and look at trends.
Right.
Or at least somewhat real data and say, all right, what is what are we getting here? What seems to be hitting a little more, rather than looking at one video and trying. The job of the social media companies is to make the algorithm impossible for you to crack, because once it's cracked, then the game goes away for them.
Right. Well, then the people who have the ability to take advantage of that will, and then you'll never, like, your mom and dad and your friends and family will never see your posts anymore.
Right.
Because the companies that understand the algorithm and hack it.
Yeah.
Will just destroy you.
Right.
You'll never be seen.
So they're constantly adjusting the algorithm. They're constantly doing what they need to do to keep you guessing. And why? Because if they keep you guessing, you'll just get fucking tired of it and you'll spend money on you'll pay for the ad. I'm like, I can't figure it out. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to pay.
That was actually one of the things I thought was eye-opening. Did you do the Joe Rogan, Mark Zuckerberg interview? Did you watch that?
No.
That's a fantastic one. But he was just basically talking about the fact that, like, you can't. It's really this delicate balance on figuring out how you get, because you can't just do the feed based on time.
Right.
Because if they just did it based on time, every company would just jump all over that. You can't do it on frequency. The major companies would just jump all over that.
I did hear this. I did hear this.
So he's basically saying, like, because it's like, okay, how do you avoid bad actors? How do you avoid, like, all the ways people can take advantage of it? Yeah, it's really, really difficult for him. And he works with, obviously, you're talking about Instagram and Facebook, two of the big ones, right? And so, it's like, they're trying to figure it out too.
And they're constantly changing.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out, how do you balance what people see so that it keeps them engaged and they're not missing out on the stuff that they care about versus the stuff that might be viral content that someone else is putting out.
Right. Right. I mean, so if they're constantly changing it and you think you're going to figure it out in our little box.
And you're also trying to do business.
Yes. And you're going to spend that much time to try to, like, watch a post and then make poor decisions off of that one thing. It's like,
let it go.
Don't hold them back anymore. I don't know.
You know the songs.
I don't. I wish I did. Words. We'll know it for next time. Yeah. Next time when we have our rap battle. Yep. Snoop Dogg.
Remember Gin and Juice when you were like a teenager? It's awesome.
Great stuff. I think we had to end on that note. Great stuff. All right. Awesome stuff.
Why aren't
today.
we going viral? Why didn't we go viral?
We didn't go viral today because the social media companies are there to make it so it can't be predictable how you get there. Okay. And if you waste your time on it, you're not doing things you're supposed to be doing. So blunt force facts for today for you to take and use are: number one, don't talk to strangers. The ways you communicate using social media as a tool is important, but understand that the concept of, we had low viewership on this, so we're doing something wrong. It doesn't necessarily really translate. And sometimes when your viewership is fantastic, you might be talking to the wrong
and
people.
The low viewership might all be your ideal customer.
Yep, and they might have heard what you want them to hear.
Exactly.
Blunt force fact number two: easy roads can lead to dead ends. Sometimes those mass scheduling tools that are out there might be hindering your actual reach. Do a little digging on that. Maybe do a month where you use that, and do a month where you post individually. Then take real data, longer term data, as opposed to looking at one post each, and see if there's some measurable difference there, and then make your decision from there.
There's no easy button for this stuff.
There is no easy button. It's worth taking the time as long as the time's not too much time. And then blunt force fact number three:
let it go, let it go.
Don't follow the shit every second, right? just like we said, take time at the end of the month to review and go from there. Same way you review your finances. I'm Brian LaFauci.
And I'm Patrick Marino.
And until next time.
Thank you.
Remember the time we did the podcast and it was awesome? That was so great.